Well, man, we're so early today.
We're not early.
Oh, we need to do a promo today. Me and you need to do a promo for hour 18 of the.
I wasn't here at all. I was long gone.
We're doing a promo. I mean, I guess I could do two of them with both, but I thought you might want to do one.
No, that's fine. I can.
I can't hold back.
Weird. Didn't show up in subscriptions. Wow. Oh, it's because you had a preview. It's like we already have 3 thumbs up.
That's how I like it. I'm already liking this.
See, this was all part of our plan. Do a couple shows everyone's going to hate. I mean, no one's going to watch. And then...
2? We did 2?
What is it?
Channel left it. Channel left it okay.
And now they're back to their roots. 5 thumbs up.
I did think it was amusing that I went and got the green screen and then put the background of an arcade up in our arcade.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I doing this? I was like, well, I don't want to take the green screen down. It looks cool. So
yeah, that's the exact same background on my work computer.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I get comments that people come in and go like, "Is that your arcade?" I was like, "No." It's like I wish that was my arcade, but no.
Can you imagine the
arcade is far smaller, and I mean, I don't want to say crappier, but certainly crappier.
It's not going. I mean, I love it. Most people don't have any arcade.
I know. I'm just saying we don't have
Listen,
neon carpet and backlit carpet and neon signs.
I don't know anyone that's got backlit carpet.
Yeah.
Now, that would be something. Do you imagine?
They turn up the brightness and
that would be
lights
quite
down low.
I'd like to have one of those floors that you could just have. It's all a big video screen. Just walk on the screen.
And have little things happen.
That's
like
right.
Huge
like in
screen.
Vegas, you
See,
know.
we could do that.
No, we can't, because it would require us to invent the technology that we can't afford.
No. It wouldn't be that. It actually would. I mean, okay, it would be incredibly hard.
Okay.
But it could be pretty easily done.
Listen, you'd have to put down the LCD panels, the biggest ones you could find.
Yes.
And then you have to get some kind of
frame. Remember the old time touchpads that had the frames around them, and that's how it worked.
Yeah.
You'd have to get a bunch of those.
Why would we want those?
Well, if you wanted it to be a touch sensitive thing.
It's not. Are you kidding me? You want a touch sensitive screen floor?
Yeah.
You're really shooting for the moon.
Yeah.
Good Lord Almighty, you're out of your mind.
Hello, Picard.
Engage.
It was his birthday a couple days ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. 79.
Oh, I thought you meant this Picard.
No.
Assuming it's a different one. It could be the same guy. I'm anxious.
Wow, that would be.
I'm anxious to see.
Although,
your new
why
show.
would this Picard choose 2005 as his?
Maybe that's a good year for him.
That's what I'm going to start doing.
Like the year you won the lottery, that's your thing.
Sprint Towdy, 2000. Oh, I guess my.
What was your big year?
Ah.
Every year, it's exponentially better.
Wow. Okay. I don't believe that, but okay. I mean, my life has certainly went up from being down. I don't know. Best year of being alive.
I can't hold back.
Man, the last year of high school, but the time between high school and college.
I was gonna say you're not one of those guys, are you?
No, that was a good year for arcades. I went and did a bunch of stuff.
We're gonna start queuing up summer of '69. Those were the best days of its life. What about the year you got married? I'd go with that one.
Well, here's the thing.
Trust me.
No. Here's the thing with getting married. We had already been together for like almost a decade. So getting married, while awesome, it was more like sealing the deal. I mean,
is Terry watching? You better walk very carefully across this TV-laden floor.
No, I think she would agree. The day before we got married and the day after we got married, I mean, the having the wedding, doing the whole marriage thing was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, good wedding. I was at that.
Yeah. Thanks for showing up.
Free each, yo.
Yeah. It was good. It was good enough food.
I've been to so many weddings I can't remember. Where was yours at the park? Is that park?
At the Valley Wave Pool Park. At the.
How many people can say they got married at the wave pool? Not that many.
I really, when they tore that building down.
Yeah.
I really wanted to get a brick from it, but it went down in a hurry.
Also, that was dumb and a waste of money, because that building was perfectly fine. Like, no, this isn't good enough.
I understand why they did it. It was in a bad location.
That
it
park
was taking up so much real estate.
That park renovation is one of the largest, hilarious jokes on the county of all time. They bought all these great fields and facilities, and no one can afford to use them. Do you know how much it costs to rent that baseball field for like one game? It's unbelievable amount of money.
Yeah.
And plus, they make you take their provided umpire. That's ridiculous. Yes. And Luke's old league, we had to take up a collection a couple times because it was so wet on the other field to play on one of the good fields. It was expensive, man. Every kid had thrown like $10. It was like hundreds of bucks.
Wow. Well, I mean, the park's doing great.
Do you ever see anyone play on those fields? Hardly. Every once in a while you'll see somebody. You hardly ever see somebody playing on the fields. They're beautiful and empty, you know.
I didn't know. I mean, obviously I knew you could rent them, but I didn't know. Do you have to pay to just like go practice?
Internet's dying. You think we should now? Because I just turned the computer on.
Oh, then no. There's no reason to reset it. The internet's went down twice this morning.
Hey, who is anybody in the chat?
Picard.
Listen, Picard. If it goes south on us, our internet's all jacked up. We're gonna sully forth and take our licks. But I saw it just now dip. I was like,
He made a astounded face.
Yeah. This is our lot now.
Angus says minor glitch.
This is our lot in life now, right here. Crap internet. It's crap.
What happened?
When this guy shows up at your house today, pull out a freaking blackjack and just start wailing on him. That's in the message back to Suddenly. We're not going to take this. You have to beat a guy down. It's a sad thing that this guy's just a representative of Suddenly, but an example has to be made.
No, actually, this is. You're getting a no-name contractor guy. I'm getting an actual Suddenly employee.
I want some action. I want sudden action.
Well, they're not going to fix it today. You know that, right?
I don't know. I don't think they can fix. Think they know how to fix anything.
Well, I agree.
When it's been up and down for like 6 months, that's absurd. Absurd.
Well, this is a hard thing. I'm not defending Suddenly.
Here we got good because I'll get the blackjack out right now.
But this is a hard thing to troubleshoot.
Here's my view. How big is this? How widespread is the problem? Okay, our whole community here is in it. Everyone in this development
Suddenly doesn't believe that.
Well, no, listen. I've talked to like tons of people. Look at our message board. I'm just saying.
Know.
But you're saying this is hard to put down. It's not. How widespread is it? Okay, you find that it's everyone down this road. Okay, a ton of people. Now, where do people not have trouble? Okay. You've narrowed it down to the area where this is taking place. Go find out what the problem is.
Aaron, here's the thing. People are complaining on the neighborhood forum thing. Oh, my internet's down. But they're not calling Suddenlink.
I'm listening.
They're not calling Suddenlink, and that's what's killing us.
When I talked to the Suddenlink guy, I said, listen, it's not my router. I don't have to reset the modem. It's not the modem. It's community-wide. I said, so you don't have to go in the house, so you don't have to worry about the line in the house. It's none of that crap. I was like, this is a major issue in the area. It's got nothing to do with my house, my brother's house, my mom and dad's house. I said, we could skip all that crap. He's like, that's great. I'm going to write that down. I was like, yeah. And you know this guy, he's probably doesn't give two jack squats. He's chilled. I will say he's a nice guy, but, you know, I hate complaining about that. I just don't like to complain. Generally, I'm a happy man. But when you can't put together a 2-bit show because of your internet, I don't know. I'm fired up. I got some good games in this week. Man, I played a lot of old DOS this week. I will say that. I played the crap out of some old DOS. This game we got to play for the Amigos. Holy crap! It's huge. It's long. It's like, oh man, these games are the tough ones for me because they're so involved.
Did you see what's coming up though?
No, I haven't looked.
Pixels hooked you guys up.
Oh, did he?
And I, excuse me, I helped drive it home.
Oh yeah.
Zany golf.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah.
Zany golf. I shouldn't. Oh, secret.
Oh yeah. You just all 2 people heard.
4. Well, 3.
We're really bringing them in today, boy. That's all right. That's all right.
I feel bad for you. We complain about in the UK. It's pretty good. Angus, our speeds when it's working are phenomenal. We get a solid 100 to 200 down.
Worldwide, that's not that big a deal.
No, that's
funny.
That's incredible in this state.
All these other countries have like stellar internet. In America, we stagger forward like a bunch of idiots. No, it is.
No, that's not true.
It is true.
Outside of your Koreas and your Japans and some of your Asian countries, we're a middle of the road.
Well, we should be higher. Sorry.
And
you know how much money I guarantee you we pay more for internet than about anybody.
Well, we do.
So we're taking a bath here on this thing. Of course, when you have walk and talk and monopolies, there we go again. We got monopolies out the yin yang. Plus, they stick a guy in charge of the SEC who's an absolute dipstick.
Yeah.
I'm saying they almost did a baddie there.
No baddies.
You know, a lot of people don't like the president. And it's a mixed bag. You like him, you can not like him, that's fine. But I think we could all agree that he really screwed up when he appointed this goof as the head of the FCC.
He did exactly what he took the money, or someone took the money, and put in a pro-cable, pro-provider.
This guy was in the industry. He was.
I know.
Worked.
I know. Dude, I know.
How corrupt is stuff?
Everything.
It doesn't matter who's leading.
It's 100% corrupt.
It doesn't matter who's which party's in control. We're all boned.
Yes.
It's boned.
All they have to do, and this is true in pretty much any society, as long as you can maintain the status quo for enough people so they won't revolt, you can do whatever you want.
Have you seen that commercial? It's got George Washington in hauling butt in this pickup truck, and he's hanging out the window. He's like, ah! He looks all pissed off. I'd love to see the original founding fathers all get together, somehow come back through time, and just slaughter. And I know that's a romantic view, blah blah blah, but still it'd be great.
The original founding fathers would come back and be like, holy crap, the country is awesome.
Well, yeah.
How in the world did you spread from coast to coast and become the most powerful force on the planet?
Well, I know. It's a mixed bag. I mean, you can't complain, I guess.
All right. It's time.
You ready?
It's time. Oh, that guy's going to... Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
What did he say? Internet screwed up?
No. They're talking about the things that happen in our country influence other countries too.
I know. We're
sorry.
We're not happy about that. We're working on it, but it's the problem is it's just like the Kang and Kodos episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah. Don't blame me. Yeah. I voted for Kodos.
Yeah. You don't have a choice. It's a two-party system. It's like, well, I'll vote for a third party, and they're like, go ahead, throw your vote away.
Throw your vote away.
And ironically, the fellow who just died, poor Ross Perot, I will reveal on the show, I voted for a third party last time.
I almost always vote for a third party.
And the thing is, the reason I did, because the third party candidate was also a dipstick, they're almost always idiots. Yeah. But if the third party gets enough votes, they can basically become a third party as opposed to a bunch of dipsticks that just are obliviously out in the void.
Especially where we lived, where our presidential vote did not matter.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean,
putting it toward the third party, at least maybe has a small chance of mattering.
Yeah, I don't like talking politics, but I think we can talk politics in this one instance by just saying,
we're sorry.
I mean,
we're sorry.
Oh, I mean, I'm not sorry.
I'm sorry.
Things happen. Listen, when one side gets control or the other side gets pissed off and vice versa. Yeah. This is the circle of life in America.
Yep.
It's just the way it is.
As long as, you just struggle to the next election.
I don't want to be like the complaining American guy, because I mean, it's not like we're dying here. But I'm saying,
oh no, we're still a first world country.
When you said like we influence the rest of the countries and stuff, we do. I mean,
we're down.
I know. What are you gonna do? We're all over the map. It's good. Just in time for the show to start, the thing flops over. I hate it. We're back up. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. We just keep on trucking, and we're down again. Now we're up.
Do you want to do a quick reset? Do you think it's going to matter?
I'm trying to think if I've got anything going on in my room that would. I mean, with my bandwidth, I should ain't trouble. I had it torn up, but Nah, let's just go. Because if we do that, we're going to split the show again. I don't like to do it.
All right. Guys, we're going to truck forward.
Yeah.
If we go down, just check the recording. I mean, we'll try to come back up. We're not, but our internet's idiots.
It's not our fault. Yeah.
Well, it is our fault.
It's not our fault. I can't move.
Yeah.
I'm not made of big money like you are, pal. I'm sucking. I'm running on fumes here, man.
I'm putting 2 kids through college. I have no money.
I've got to put one through college, so
You've got 10 years to prepare.
I mean, you had years. Did you prepare? How do you prepare? It's not like money secretly appears that you can stash. You're screwed.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Which West Virginia, which is its whole other country.
Although, get your kid to go to community college, goes for free.
Listen, my kid's going to go he's going to get a scholarship. That's my goal.
Well, that works too.
All right.
I mean, we're still paying tons for that.
Here we go.
Okay.
What was that?
Oh. No, wait.
Oh.
Okay, you can get up easier than I can.
No, I'm not getting up. I'm not getting anything.
I'm getting something.
Why? What? What do you need?
We need bits.
It's 9:02 right now. Oh, big. Ooh. Oh, my. Good God, no. How come you didn't make us a couple of those for this show? Those are awesome. I miss your little doodads you used to make.
I honestly, I don't have time anymore.
Oh, man, you moved the whole table, you little klutz. At least turn it around. You had to pick the least impressive one.
No, this has good side art. And apparently a sticky foot.
No, don't give me that. You're making me nervous with your antics this morning. All right, you ready?
Obviously not.
You're the human internet down. Like, you're literally stopped production for your wacky antics. If you put the thing here like that, look, all you see is a crummy back of the thing. No machines have awesome backs. You ever notice that?
Well, I wonder why.
It's to take up more room. All right, can we start the show now, you goofball? Yes. You know how to do it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to an action-packed episode of ARG Presents. I'm Amigo Aaron, joined by a man who, he never quite escaped the early 90s, the Brent.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
How's it going? Good, man. What do you got there? Get a little game going?
Well, you know.
A little game. So, if you joined us last week, we spun the wheel and we made the deal. And this week, we'll be taking a look at selections from the early 90s arcade scene.
Yes.
Now, Brett, I thought we'd start this little area here, a little segment of the show, by discussing the vibe or the situation in the arcades in the early 90s. You were coming off of a boom period in the early 80s, and then in the mid to late 80s, there was sort of a leveling off. I'd say starting around 87 or 88. Before,
yeah, you're going down after that.
Right before, I think there was a one last passionate gasp in the early 90s, and arcades were coming back up, weren't they?
Yep. There was a huge boon in the early 90s. Tons of great games, tons of great multiplayer games that really brought people back to the arcades. It was a glorious time.
I think. And I don't think I'm going on a limb here when I say this. I think a couple games that were really, I can see one or two games that were responsible for this uptick. That's not to say that these were the only great games in the early 90s. That's clearly not true. But I think when you look at the early 90s, that what brought people back to the arcade
I can think of two major ones.
Your Street Fighter 2
yes.
and your Mortal Kombat.
No.
And what would you say the other one was?
NBA Jam.
Well, I wouldn't say that
Aaron,
one, actually.
It sold more cabinets than any other arcade game. NBA Jam Tournament Edition.
I don't agree with that either. So, so there you go. So why do you say? I mean, we could agree that Street Fighter 2,
absolutely,
the clear choice. This sudden turnaround was almost entirely started by Street Fighter II.
Yes.
I mean, the arcade was had sort of gotten stale, hadn't it?
Yes.
And this was also the time where the home market had caught up to a certain degree with what was going on in the arcade. I mean, you could have a decent game at home now, couldn't you?
It was a point in time where consoles had the jack to pull off the 80s, even into the late 80s. But the early 90s started pushing higher sprite counts, started pushing polygons, and the divide, especially in the mid-90s, got closer to what you could do at home versus what you could do in the arcade.
Yeah.
And then eventually, of course, the console market passed the arcade.
I thought we would just talk about a few games that we didn't pick, but there were plenty of good games in the early 90s. And
Sure.
I thought we'd just discuss a couple. So one thing the 90s... really, aside from fighting games that came up hard, were games like shooting games and driving games.
Yeah.
The technology had improved quite a bit by then. And so
Absolutely.
You were getting games like Area 51, which came out in the mid-90s, but still early, 94, 95. Yeah. You've got your Daytonas. You were getting that kind of stuff in. And those games, you saw a lot of those games popping up. Stuff like your Virtual Cop. Stuff like that. Did you play a lot of the shooting stuff back in the day in the arcade? Because most of I would say most of the shooting stuff I did, I played at home.
I played everything. Literally everything. I played the racing games, all the big toy games, with your motorcycles. Time Crisis 2, which was a little bit later, but I played the ever living heck out of that game. Your Area 51s, played those, played them all. I played everything. In the 90s. For me, things to do with your free time was to go to the arcade.
Another couple that I'd say I enjoyed quite a bit were, and one of these is particularly cheesy, was your Lethal Enforcers. I remember
Loved
this game.
it.
I remember Lethal Enforcers because it had to use those Mortal Kombat style graphics,
Yes.
And it was, and the guns looked. That's one of the other things I remember.
Pink and baby blue.
Yeah, because I guess there was this common knowledge, but they made these guns idiotic colors so no one would think they were real.
Yes.
Which is ludicrous because if you're going to take the time to steal one of these, you could seriously take the time to go and get a can of spray paint.
No. They didn't want people walking past because they had Lethal Enforcers in the front of like shopping plazas.
Yeah.
So they didn't want people walking from the outside the store, inside the store, past these games to think the guns were real.
It's wacky. Another early game in the 90s, I think it was 91, was the Terminator 2 machine gun shooting game.
Yes.
That's another one. Now, I'm not the biggest Terminator fan, although I will say Terminator 2 is far and away my favorite one.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
And Terminator 2, the game, is far and away my favorite Terminator game.
Yes.
It was just a lot of fun. Again, it used those digitized graphics. This is when that stuff was a big deal.
Big deal.
And so now let's talk about a few of the racing titles that were coming out about that time. Of course, we've got your Daytona came out in that area. Now you played some Daytona back in the day.
Oh, Daytona was favorite racing arcade racing game by far.
Cruising USA, which is I always thought this was sort of a lame game.
Yep,
but
I agree.
Again, it used
super popular.
It did. It was a pretty popular game in the day. Of course, Virtual Racing was out about that in the early 90s. That's another game that I thought. It's one of those when I saw the graphics, I was like, "Wow, look at this! We're really coming a long way." You could have those multiple players. Now, but let's face facts. What really stole the show in the 90s were fighting games and beat 'em ups in the early 90s. You had plenty to go around. Of course, we had the Street Fighter 2. And that series that just went on to this day. It's still going on.
See, I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
I think it was fighting games and sports games because you had your NBA jams. Remember how big Blitz was? Holy cow, Aaron! Blitz was a huge moneymaker.
Listen, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm underselling the amount of popularity because and it's funny. I didn't play those games in the arcade that much, but I mean every once in a while I'd fire one.
My friends and I would go and play full games of Blitz and full games of NBA Jam, which would be like $4 per person.
Yeah,
that was huge moneymakers for the arcades.
Amongst the perennial favorites in the fighting game genre that came out, you got a lot of good stuff here in the early 90s. Of course, you got Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2 were both in that arena. I'll tell you, when Mortal Kombat came out, that really blew my mind graphically because it was right as a teenage boy. I was like, oh boy, look at this! This is so awesome. Actually, I wasn't a teenager then; I was in my early 20s, I guess, when some of this came out. But I always had the mind of a teenage boy, and that continues to this day. Mortal Kombat 2, which is a better game. Of course, you had your Virtual Fighter series, you had your Tekkens. You had a lot of great games coming on the scene, and they were trying different things. They'd moved into the realm of 3D with limited amount of success. I got to mention my buddy's favorite game from back in the day, Primal Rage. I know you weren't a fan of it, but it was
okay.
It's pretty popular. And then I want to lastly touch on some of the beat 'em ups. That was a good era for beat 'em ups. And we both like a good beat 'em up now and again. Although some of these I wouldn't consider that good, but you had like. In '91, think how far back this is. You had the old Simpsons beat 'em up that came out. Now,
super popular.
It was. And the thing is, if you play that game, it's a dumb game. And really,
well, I mean, what beat 'em up isn't dumb?
Well, I was not the biggest fan of it, but I have played it many times.
And the reason why those were so popular for the arcade owners is you put 4 people around it, and if you can get one person to put in another quarter, then the other guy feels like they've got to put in another quarter, and then you're just raking in the cash.
Yeah.
Endless money.
Yeah. Now, you had a couple here in the early 90s. The early 90s, I've got to talk about both these. You had your Captain America: The Avengers.
Great game.
Wacky game. It was no X-Men, but it was the guys are real small. It was very well done. I mean, it looked nice. You also had, and this is one of my kids' personal favorites, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, aged in 1990.
We used to own that board.
Man, we made a lot of money off that board when we sold it. It went straight to.
Yeah, and now when we're talking about the arcades, we have to mention one other thing.
All right.
We got to mention pinball machines.
Okay, you're right.
This was the glory days of pinball machines.
You want to run off a couple of your favorites?
You've got your Addams Families in there, your Twilight Zones, your Next Generations, all absolute wonderful pinball machines. I believe my favorite machine of all time, Whodunit, a murder mystery, was in the early 90s. Absolute great pinball action. This was a big resurgence for pinball, too.
Yeah, you had...
and it's funny, pinball somehow manages to eke on when the arcade scene is basically totally dead.
Yeah. Well, pinball... Pinball had that technological upswing in the 90s where you had everything had the DMDs. Everything had the digitized sound. Everything had the digitized music. They had honed their craft, as it were. Now, it's funny, since we did that episode where we talked about Pinball 2000, because obviously the early 90s led into the later 90s, which the later 90s were great for pinball too.
Yeah.
All the 90s were great for pinball. But it fell off a cliff. Basically, I think they tried to advance technology too far. But I think that was sort of, we sort of mentioned this before, but I think people had just decided they were getting out of the pinball business and they were gone. And I don't think there was a thing that was going to save it. Unfortunately.
And the thing with pinball is the reason why it still has a slight uptick, especially over arcades, is you can't get the pinball experience at home without owning a pinball machine.
That's true. I mean, you could sort of simulate pinball, but it's not like owning the real thing. And the funny thing is, just to put this to bed, you can't even fully realize the pinball experience on modern pinball machines. It doesn't feel the same. It's just still like you're still playing pinball. But if you've been around for a long time and played some of the quality pinball machines, all the new machines none of them feel like the old machines.
They're mostly start and stops, which I don't mind, but I understand what you're saying.
I mean, they don't physically. You get a different tactile feeling. It's not a bad thing. It's just a different thing.
Yeah.
So with all that in mind, we were tasked with choosing a couple games to talk about from the early 90s. And there was a smorgasbord.
Yes.
And it's funny, I had to go over a big list of games personally, but then one just leapt out at me. It's like, bam, I've got to do that one. Again, my philosophy on some of this stuff is, when are you going to be here again? And so that's what I do. And so, and your philosophy, I'd say this one you picked was one that I hadn't thought about. So we're going to go right into it. But I want you to tell the folks what you're going to talk about this week.
I brought forth Elevator Action Returns.
Oh, my.
And I did this for one major reason. A lot of people don't know about this game. Now, Elevator Action Returns has a kind of a funny history. It was actually released at the very end of '94, so I was right on the edge.
I was going to say, and which is funny because it feels like a game. I mean, it seems older than that to me. I would never have guessed it came out that late.
Yeah, and of course, for those not in the know, this is a sequel to Elevator Action, a great game in the early '80s that really took arcades by storm. Was vastly popular, probably within the top 3 of Tato's big games back in the day.
You think it was that high? Tato had some massive games.
Yeah.
And we'll say it was ported to everything.
Yes.
And I'm not going to lie. Elevator Action, the original, not to disparage this one, but it is one of my go-to games.
Yes.
It's
something you can go and play right now and have a ton of fun with.
It's simple, and it gave you that. And the arcade is sort of rare. It gave you this feeling that you could do whatever you want.
Yes.
That's one of those. I love that, and it was a simple. It was a simple premise. You're a secret agent. You get the plans.
Go steal the documents. Get out of the building.
Shoot the bad guys or avoid them, and then get out and go get your sports car and drive off.
Yep.
And that's what made it fun. Great game. Love it.
So it was kind of odd that they would wait 11 years to produce a sequel for this game.
Yeah.
And this was a very interesting time for arcades. As we mentioned before, games were going to rendered graphics. They were going to 3D graphics. A lot of games were competitive in nature. You had some of your beat-ups that were cooperative, but a lot of games were moving towards the competitive side, either with sports or with fighting games.
More money.
Yeah, of course, because your games were shorter, and it gave people a reason to play again.
Yeah.
So when this came out in the arcades, it did not do well. The cabinet itself did not sell well. It looked like it was just going to be released and die on the vine. That was it.
Yeah.
And really, that's what happened. I know I never saw an Elevator Action Returns in an arcade.
I have.
And let me tell you, folks, I went to arcades all the time.
I've played this at a couple of different arcades back in the day. Yeah, and it was, I'll go ahead and I'll talk about my thoughts on it later. But yeah, okay. I did play it. Yeah.
I didn't. I never saw this cabinet in the arcade, and this was a game that probably came out later than it should. Because it's using sprite graphics, beautiful sprite graphics, but sprite graphics in a time when everything around it looked better, sounded better, everything else. However, it was a game that when people started playing it, because a lot of people just passed it over. It never got put into a lot of arcades because of that. Like I said, the cabinet sold very poorly. This had a Sega Saturn release in '97, so 3 years after the arcade release. And the Sega Saturn sold moderately. It sold well because on the Saturn, people were really hungry for high quality games. Mm-hmm. And this was a near arcade perfect port. And then in 2006, it got released for in compilations and stuff like that. But the emulation was not very good. It had a lot of slowdown, which is kind of funny since the Saturn could do it no problem. So, Elevator Action Returns, what is it? You choose between 3 characters who all have different speeds, health, and grenade options. And you put them in a scenario where they have to traverse through buildings, through planes, through skyscrapers, through missile silos, either collecting documents, which is a throwback to the first game on the first level, and then the rest of the game, you're planting bombs. Actually, it says defusing bombs on the screens, but considering after every level you beat, the structure blows up, I believe it's supposed to be planting bombs. And you have everything is based off of moving vertically using elevators, so that retains through the previous games. And it is fast, fun, run and gun action. Yeah. It is non-stop. People are coming out of every door. They are coming up every lift. You've got robots. You've got guards. You've got just freaks of nature, real long-armed, lanky animal. Guys. You've got dogs. security, anti-personnel guns.
Yeah.
Also, you've got traps. You've got landmines you have to avoid. Tons of enemy variety. Tons of level diversity. This game has some of the best locales for this type of game I've ever seen. And that's really somewhere it excels.
Yeah.
This is a blast to play. If you ever have a chance to play this game, take it. It is tremendously fun. Now, I said you said you got to play this in arcades.
That's right.
What was your experience in an arcade?
It's funny to look back on it now.
All right.
Because, of course, I was a big fan of elevator action. And one of the things that elevator action does is it's not a difficult game to understand the concepts behind, and it doesn't look overwhelming. You play it, you're like, okay, here's what I got to do.
Sure.
Now, the buildings, if you think about how ludicrous these buildings would be, you've got 12 elevators going all over the place.
Oh,
right
yeah.
They're not realistic buildings.
No.
I mean, the base of the structure would just be 20 elevators. But it's still the concepts are pretty easy. So when I played Elevator Action Returns, to be completely honest, it was when I first played, it was overwhelming. I mean, when you hold on, when you look at what's in front of you, like let's take a typical elevator action screen.
All right.
You're like it's like a shaft down the middle of most sections, and then you've got doors on either side, maybe a couple, maybe one door, and then you've got your other means of going down, your escalators. It's pretty basic. When you look at a screen of this game, there's like a lot more going on. There are a lot more enemies, and the enemies aren't as meek looking or dull looking as the ones in Elevator Action. There's stuff going on, like you said. There are gun turrets, there's animals, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
And so when you look at it, you're like, holy smokes! Also, your guy. If you recall in Elevator Action, your guy pokes around,
He's very
like in this game. Your
lethargic.
guy looks like he's like running, jumping, like he looks like an action hero.
Yes,
type.
all of them do.
All right, so it plays a lot faster than the original, in my opinion. It's a lot more complex. So when you play this, I think this is why the game failed. Hold on a second. Here's my thought on it. Now, Tato could have said, okay, it's time to put out another Elevator Action. We'll just spruce this thing up. I think they were like, you know what? We're gonna go crazy. We're gonna make this the best game. I bet they sunk a ton of money and time into this game, because you can tell it looks great, it plays great, it sounds great. They put a ton. I think they really threw it all at the game, and I think in the arcade, to me, I think one of the reasons it didn't do as well is because people just looked at it and they were just like, holy smokes, there's a lot going on here. It's just too much. I also think that it came out at the wrong time.
That I agree.
Coming out in '94, and it looks great, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't necessarily seem like a game. It was certainly in a land where you have digitized graphics and vector-based stuff and 3D polygonal blah, blah, blah. Here comes a throwback. Now, that doesn't make it bad. But it makes it sort of look old, passé compared to what's going on. I mean, if you're setting this game beside Virtual Fighter Tekken or Daytona or something, you're like, look at this. When this game, I can see why the Saturn did it so well, because this game has a lot in common with the Sega Saturn. Sega Saturn was a machine that could push out 2D games like there was no tomorrow, right? This was the perfect game for this system. The problem is it was a brilliant, extravagant 2D system and a 3D system landscape.
Yeah.
And so it's suffering. So all that aside, personally, I love this game.
Absolutely.
I've beat it a bunch of times.
Absolutely.
Lots of fun. Ending cool. I've never got to play 2 players with this, which I've heard is great. I'm not got to do it, but I think it's a ton of fun. And I've always enjoyed it. And I was probably the only person that played it in the arcades. I don't think I ever saw a single other person playing this. I saw it at 2 different arcades. They had it in, I'm trying to think where I was at, where I saw it. It would have been in Lexington somewhere, one of the arcades down there. But, and we had a lot of, thanks to the UK, we had a lot of foreign folks there, and so they would stock some kind of nuttier stuff. And this was one, I think Tony's or Kentucky Arcade had this, or maybe both. But I mean, I didn't see it get that much play. Well, what did get a lot of play were the 2 or 3 Street Fighter cabinets or Mortal Kombat cabinets that they had in there. that people were lining up to play. That's just the way it was. And like I said, I think that's what hosed them. But I do commend the effort they put into it. They really, like I said, they could have done a half job. But I mean, I really think this is a top quality release. Just a few years too late.
First of all, I don't agree that it's too complicated.
I didn't say it was too complicated. I said it was more complicated.
Okay, I don't even agree with that. But we'll go past that fact because I didn't play it in the arcades. This was something I discovered through MAME as I was just randomly picking games to play. This is when I picked. I was like, "Holy cow!
Yeah.
How have I not heard about this before?"
Yeah.
2-player action. I've never done it, but I bet it's insane. I have seen clips of it, and it runs like a dream.
Yeah.
No slowdown at all. Every time I start to play this game, I play all the way through it. It's not a terribly long game. Even on your very first time playing it with continues and everything, you can probably get through it in like an hour and a half.
Oh, it's not that long.
No, first time playing.
Oh,
I'm saying you're dying.
If you suck, yeah, but in this kind of game, you just keep it trucking.
If you know everything ins and out, this is a 25-minute game.
Yeah.
So you can get through it no problem. And I highly recommend it because it is so much fun. And the different characters are just different enough that you can play each of them and have a different experience. And although probably the girl is overpowered a little bit because she can shoot faster than anyone else, I don't think it is a big enough boon that you have to play with her and you can't play with anyone else. So please, you owe it to yourself. Go out and check this game out. If you own a Saturn, you can pick this game up for an incredible price of $225.
I'm guessing it was not a big seller.
It was. This is one of those Saturn games that everybody wants because it's arcade perfect.
Yeah.
If you want to pick up the arcade version, you can pick up the cartridge, which this just slides into a Tato board. You can get the whole shebang for about $500.
So this was on Tato's multi-use platform at the time. I can't remember which one. Do you remember which set that was?
F3 system. The F3 system.
It's funny because this was something that was taken over the arcades back in the day, which is some sort of a
cart system,
cart-based in arcade, which is a smart way to go.
It is.
That's probably one of the reasons you didn't see a lot of these machines too, because I mean, if the game's not earning, why keep it around when you can put something else in that's going to make you some money?
That's it.
And I don't know what Tato had out at that time, but I'm sure they had some hits that were cooking that were making more money than this.
We have any user reviews on this?
We do. Our good buddy Graham W. Bepke kicks in a review. I have played this game on the Tato Legends 2 PS2 compilation. That's another place you can play it.
Oh, that's right, and I mentioned that.
And I remember it really great.
Yeah.
I also like the original linear action game, but this game expands upon it to make almost a cross between the original game and a new running gun platform with new and running gun platforming elements.
Yes.
Yet it works. I didn't get the chance to explore co-op mode, but I do like how you could choose your character, each with different attributes, and I like to play as Eddie. You could fall down the elevator shaft. That's true. Unlike the first game, which I wasn't expecting when I first played this, the graphics on this are very good and set the scene very well, and the sound is beyond great. That's very true. It's got awesome sound. With plenty of explosion effects plus multiple enemies on the screen, it shows no slowdown. I liked how it kept the red doors from the original game, but added the blue doors to get you special weapons and bonus points is a nice touch. My only gripe is at times the game is very unforgiving, and even though I know the game only has 6 levels in total, I couldn't get past the cross the breeze level 2 most plays before continuing. That is a difficult area, having to cross that thing.
It is.
9 out of 10 from the W, so he was a real fan of that one.
Wholeheartedly agree with that score. I think the only thing that brings this game down are the bosses of each level are usually just an enemy rush, and I think that is a huge missed opportunity. They could have really done something with bosses here, and they didn't.
Yeah, the boss element on this, even the last guy, it's not like it's gonna like. This isn't this isn't Contra. Let's put it that way.
Right, and the last stage, the way they turn it up a notch is you have to get to the top of this missile silo before your time runs out and destroy a console
because it's launching.
Right, before it launches the missile. So I mean, it does have that kind of element. And it does something special in a couple of the levels like that. But for large pixel bosses with real nice sprites, it doesn't do it.
You could have slapped a Bond license on this, made a few graphical tweaks, and this could have been a Bond movie.
Yeah.
Or any of those spy types. You could have done
yeah.
it because the story's good. I mean, it's typical spy stuff, but it's good.
So I brought gold, pure gold to the stage. What did you bring?
I brought solid platinum. This week, I'm going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite games, and that is WWF Wrestle Fest.
Yes.
Now, just a brief history lesson before we get into this. I always wanted to own an arcade game, Brent, back in the day. And I was living in Kentucky and working for IBM, and I was like, I've made a few bucks here. I would like to own an arcade machine. I was like, what can we do, Brent? And me and you and Dad got together, and you guys actually went down and picked up the very first arcade machine we ever owned and tell them what it was.
Bought it straight out of the arcade.
Yep.
We literally put it on a dolly. This arcade was located in a mall.
Yep.
We went to the arcade, paid the guy $425.
Yep.
I'll never forget that total.
Yep.
We strapped it to a dolly, rolled it out of the arcade, down a back hallway, straight into the parking garage, loaded into our vehicle, and off we went. It was an incredible time.
I wasn't even there for that.
You were not.
I was in Lexington, and lo and behold, they wheel up, and there it is, a 4-player WWF Wrestle Fest machine. Now, we don't agree on everything, Brent, but we both loved us some Wrestle Fest.
Incredible game. Even if you don't like wrestling, incredible game.
And I can tell you, and I say this with a tear in my eye, that when I had to sell this, eventually my job got sent overseas, unfortunately. Well, it got sent to Mexico, and then it wound its way to the Philippines, which it is what it is. So no jobby equals no house payment equals I'm in deep trouble. And so I had to liquidate 4 or 5 games that I owned, including a Miss Pac-Man, a Donkey Kong, a Galaga, and those all sucked, and a Road Blasters. I loved them all. It sucked getting rid of them, but the one that hurt me the most is when they wheeled out my Wrestle Fest. That was brutal.
Yeah.
I've never quite recovered from that. Wrestle Fest was the first machine I ever put a MAME setup in, that was the first. So I learned how to do that on there.
And we should mention this was the
4-player dedicated Wrestle Fest cabinet. It wasn't a conversion. So I loved this game early on, and it's not just because I'm a big wrestling fan either. But we'll get into that. So this game came out in North America, Europe, Australia, all the same time, June of 1991.
Yep.
A glorious year. Developed by Technos in Japan. Now I didn't know this, Brent. Maybe you did. But the director of this game, as he's noted, was a fellow, I'm going to try to pronounce his name, Yoshihisa Kishimoto. Okay, this guy has quite a pedigree.
Okay.
Let's just start with the fact that he did all 4 of the Double Dragon games, arcade games.
At least 2 of those were good.
He did, amongst the games he worked on, the Laserdisc game Cobra Command. Remember that, the helicopter one? I like that game a lot. He did Renegade, which is has a different game in Japan. Super Dodgeball.
Real fun.
I know you love that one. The Laserdisc game Road Blaster, which is one of the better ones in my opinion. And he did WWF Superstars, which is the game that was the game that came up before this, which is another great game.
That's a good stepping stone.
Yeah, and then the designer of this was a fellow named Shinichi Sato, and the other fellow that designed it, Kunio Taki. Clearly from Japan. Here, like I said, Technos Japan.
Good call.
So, what is WrestleFest? This is a professional wrestling game based around characters from the 1990/91 season of WWF, now WWE. You had 1 to 4 players that could be simultaneous. Now, get this, Brent. I didn't know this either. The arcade system in this thing was a 68,000. Very common chip, used in many home computers at the time, including the Amiga. The Z80 processor in it, and it had a standard resolution monitor, nothing special. I believe it had a 17-inch monitor, which was nice for that 4-player cabinet.
Sure.
Had a big old monitor, the one we had. Of course, there are also, you'll occasionally see conversions of this that are 2-player
Yes.
Which they
and the board is set up to handle that.
Yeah. So, what do you do in this game? Well, the game comes out. It's got an awesome opening where it builds up this music. Ta-da! And it shows all the characters, all the little profiles of all the characters on the screen. It goes into a rolling demo that shows each character whooping the crap out of another guy. It has their name. It'll show them doing their signature move. Okay, and so if you're a wrestling fan, especially a WWF fan from the 90s, this game oozes 1990s WWF wrestling, early 90s. They wanted to reproduce the feeling you would get when watching these shows, and they did an absolutely fabulous job.
Yeah. Little time capsule.
It captures it perfectly. If you were a fan of the WWF back in the early 90s and late 80s, they used to have a thing called Saturday Night's Main Event, which was a show that would come on in place of Saturday Night Live, and it would be a wrestling show. And they would usually shoot a big angle in there, have some interesting things that happen. But what they did on that show that they implemented in this game, where they would give each of the wrestlers these logos.
Yeah.
So it would be like each wrestler had their own logo, sort of like a game would have. And the wrestlers all had different personalities and stuff. And so the game tried to incorporate that in the game. So when you start a game, you pick from a ton of wrestlers. I guess I should go into first who you've got to choose from in these games. So you've got Hulk Hogan, of course. You got to have the Hulkster. And some of these guys returned from WWF Superstars, which I'll get to that a little bit. You got the Ultimate Warrior, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, the Big Boss Man, got to have him. Jake the Snake Roberts, Earthquake, Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, Sergeant Slaughter, the Demolition, which in this particular instance is Smash and Crush, which I'll get into that a little bit later. And then the boss characters in this are the Legion of Doom, a.k.a. the Road Warriors if you were an NWA fan, Animal and Hawk. All right, those are your choices. Now, several of these guys came back from WWF Superstars, which is the game that Technos did before this one, but unfortunately they omitted a couple of my favorites. In Superstars, you could also play as Hacksaw Jim Duggan, which is not necessarily my favorite, but you also, my personal favorites, Macho Man Randy Savage and the Honky Tonk Man. I love the Honky Tonk Man. In the original game, the bad guys, the end bosses, were Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and Andre the Giant.
Yes.
All right? And Honky was the best guy against Andre, which a lot of people didn't know that because he could use 2 or 3 of his moves against Andre, where most guys couldn't use hardly any of their moves.
Right, because he just got
I was a big fan of Honky Tonk Man back in the day. I'm a big Honky fan, I guess what I'm saying. But he didn't make the cut because at this point he was sort of old news. Ultimate Warrior came in, and this was when the WWF, the game time is based when the WWF was sort of pushing the Ultimate Warrior as the replacement for the Hulkster. He was going to be taking over for Hulk. And this is also predates the entry of Ric Flair on the scene, so which is why he's not in this. Now, you know who the wrestlers are. Just to show you a little attention to detail in this that I think is tremendous. Okay, number one, they were so on the ball in this game that they would put in little flourishes that most people wouldn't notice. And I'll give you an example. There was an angle that they ran in the WWF where Jake the Snake was partially blinded. Okay, and it screwed up one of his eyes. And if you look at Jake in this game when he comes out, he's got one bad eye. If you look real close, you can see it. He's got a bad eye. Secondly, Demolition. This is when there were 3 members of Demolition. Originally, there were just 2, Axe and Smash.
Yes.
Well, Axe, by the way, I've met Axe. He was the original Masked Superstar, and he was a real good guy. He was getting older. He was pretty famous, and so he'd had a long career. And so they brought in Crush to replace him. And in this game, you get Crush. So this shows you the point where Axe had already basically been phased out, and Crush was in. Crush was a much crappier Demolition member. Axe and Smash. And by the way, just for anyone that cares, Smash had about 400 gimmicks. He was a golfer. He was a Russian. He was a Repo Man. He did that for a while. He was the Repo Man, in fact. A few years later, he would be the Repo Man. So he had tons of different gimmicks that had varying degrees of success. One little thing I want to mention is that Earthquake was a huge sumo star. Well, that's not fair. He was a known sumo player in Japan. All right. So before he came to WWF, he was a sumo wrestler, a huge man. By the way, debuted in the WWF in West Virginia. Just a FYI. I always liked playing him, and not just because I bear a striking resemblance to the man, especially before I shaved my head. But I always thought he was a cool guy. And he was for a guy that huge. He was a great worker. Unfortunately, he passed away from cancer a few years ago. But his story in Japan, in sumo over there, it's a whole different level of sport than it is anywhere else.
Yeah.
And so they treated him they treat all the underlings like dogs over there when you're sumo. And he literally, and I've heard him tell the story several times back when he was still around, that he did a sumo match, ran out the door in his sumo gear, hopped in a waiting car that drove him directly to the airport. He put some clothes on in the car, got on a plane, and flew directly back to the States. That's how, because they wouldn't let him leave. You know, it's crazy. That's a whole different kettle of fish there. So they paid a lot of attention to the details on this. You also had ring announcer Mike McGurk. She was the first lady ring announcer that I remember. She was horrible announcer. I don't know, Vern Gagne's daughter did some announcing too. She wasn't any good either. But Mike McGurk was this blonde who would come out in this sort of like purple sequined, outfit.
Suit.
It was like a ring announcer's gear. And she in this game, she actually comes out. She's the only person in this game where I wonder if her voice is sort of sounds the same. But when the match starts, there are two match types in this. You've got the Saturday Night Main Event, which is a tag team challenge where you're going after the belts. Then you've also got your Royal Rumble. All right. So when you do a tag, the tag side, Margaret comes out. She announces all the players in the game. They all do their pose. You see them come to the ring. They've used the exact same graphics they used in the old game. And the guys look the same. They've got their gear. They come to the ring. They get announced by this chick. It shows her get out of the ring, which is cool. It shows their logos, and then the match starts. And in the match, you are in a tag match if you're playing the Saturday Night Main Event. So what do? Well, you've got two buttons in this game, punch and kick. They punch and kick. When you get close to a guy, you can initiate a grapple, which makes you run into them. Or you can beat them until they're groggy and run into them. And then you can do a move. Each character has a specialized series of moves specifically catering to that guy's actual moveset, which was a big deal. And Superstars had this as well. You don't want Hulk Hogan doing a Hurricane Rana or a 450. This doesn't do that stuff. So each character would do movesets based on their actual movesets. Now, some of the movesets had evolved by the time this game had came out. I'll give you an example. They've got Sergeant Slaughter doing the Cobra Clutch. His Cobra Clutch is actually a move that's a strangulation move where you wrap your arms around the guy. But in this game, he was doing his new finisher, which is he puts his hand on one side of the guy's head, his fist, and tries to punch through the guy's brain.
Through his ear,
So there were some subtle changes that if you pay attention, you know what's going on. But they mostly got it right. I mean, pretty much all these guys have their finishing moves, and all the setup moves are good too. They're all just the way they should be, right? So in the tag match, you can also cheat. You can come in and break up the pins if your partner's getting pinned. You can also do double team maneuvers. If you tag your partner while you've got a guy in control, your partner can come off and you can beat the tar out of him. It's got outside of the ring stuff. There are steps you can pick up.
Yep.
I believe you can also, there's also some kind of like a metal box that you can whack a guy with. It's funny, there's no chair. There was a chair in Superstars. I don't know why they got rid of that. And you can get counted out. And each character has a different health bar at the top. As you get beat up, your health bar goes down. Eventually, when your health bar is at 0, if they pin you, you're done. You're screwed.
Right.
Sometimes it's even really low if you don't really tap the buttons hard.
Oh, yeah, you got to really spam them.
Yeah. But I mean, it didn't reinvent the wheel on health bars. It's
no, it didn't need to.
One thing you can do is buy in. So if you're getting beat real bad, you could stick another quarter in there, hit the button, and your health restores to full health. So that's something you can do at pretty much at any time. So that's the tag team. When you go to the tag team, the main event guys are the Legion of Doom, Animal and Hawk. Now, before you have the match, Mean Gene interviews Animal and Hawk, which is in a classic baloney segment. because
it's great.
This was all made in Japan, so they didn't get any of the original WWF guys to do the voice acting. Like I say, Mike McGurk sounds like Mike McGurk, so it may be her. But so Gene, he says they're declaring themselves challengers to your titles, and he interviews the Road Warriors. It's really good looking. It looks just like an interview.
Good set and everything.
And they begin to talk, and if you ever hear the Legion of Doom talk, these big husky killers, these guys like, we snack on danger and dine on death.
Yeah.
And we kill every pencil neck geek we face. Blah! Make these noises. It's real comical to hear it, but they look good. And then the Legion of Doom comes out. The Legion of Doom actually have double the health that everyone else has, and their moves do like 25% more damage.
Yes.
And so they can actually, they're not easy to beat. And their finishing maneuver is called the Doomsday Device, where one guy picks you up on his shoulders and Animal, and Hawk comes up the top rope with the clothesline. It's awesome looking.
It looks great.
They did a great job putting that together. The Road Warriors the Legion of Doom are pretty cool. They're not playable, but a hack came out a few years back that, if you're emulating this, that lets you actually play as them, and also you could buy in as them in the Rumble if you time it right. That's it. So it's funny that the code was in there to play, but they wouldn't let you play them. I would have probably put them in there.
Well, and even the hack to play as them in the tag match.
Yeah.
There are certain ways that you can free to lock up the game. Like if you're playing Hawk and put somebody up, do your finisher. It'll put the guy up on the shoulder, but there's no one ever there to clothesline you, so it soft locks the game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're right. That's right. Now, the other mode you can play in this is Royal Rumble. And that's when every superstar comes out and you try to throw them over the top rope, pin or submit them.
Yeah.
So you can do both. Now, this is a key element to this game is who you pick in this, because if you pick a guy, and there's two guys that always come to mind on this, Mr. Perfect and Teddy DiBiase don't have an out-of-the-ring slam.
They don't have
and so you basically have no choice but to pin or submit the guys. You don't have any choice in the matter. If you pick a guy like Hulk Hogan or Boss Man or Earthquake, they all have lifts. They can throw guys out, which I guess is sort of realistic. Royal Rumble's great. You play until everyone's gone or you run out of time. And you can buy in as people come to the ring, and there are little insets that show the people coming to the ring, which is really cool.
Yeah.
They did
presentation is phenomenal.
They did a great job.
Phenomenal.
On it. You can see that I gush over. Now I looked up allegedly. I'm going to tell you some alleged facts here. So allegedly, the people that made this wanted to include the Warlord. I don't know if you remember this big, huge, tall, muscular guy. He wasn't very good. And the Undertaker in the game, and the WWF refused to let them in, which I find odd. I don't know. Maybe they didn't want the Undertaker to get pinned, or you never know with them. In this game, if you're in the tag mode, if you sit on a ring apron long enough waiting for a tag, your guy will basically go crazy.
Yeah.
And he becomes indestructible. And you've got 20 seconds to tag him in. And in that 20 seconds, he cannot lose a grapple.
Yeah.
Now, he can get grapples reversed, which is very irritating. But that only happens in tag, so it's sort of like the old hot tag, which I always thought that was kind of cool. So everyone loved this game. It was super popular. To this day, it's still very popular. Many people have this at the top of their wrestling game favorite.
Oh, absolutely. It is for me.
It's my favorite, and amongst some great games, by the way. This is still my all-time favorite. Easy to play. You go in there and have a good time. It makes you feel like you're actually wrestling. If you play 2 or 4 people at this, it's great.
Yes.
Me and Ho used to play it all the time. Me and you've played it 1,000,000 times. It's great fun to team up. You get to yell at your partner for sucking.
And you can play this. You can pick it up, play it, and do well. Or you can keep playing it and actually learn the sequence of moves, how the game works, the mechanics behind the game, and become way better than when you started.
That's right. I can say that I have made it through the entire tag line twice without actually buying in quarters. Because at the end of a match, if you win, you get a little back. We should mention, by the way, also in the tag thing, there's also a cage match that you get in, and they've used the big blue WWF cage from WrestleMania 2, that King Kong Bundy was in. So everyone always wondered, why in God's name did they not make a home port of this? Well, there's one big reason. LJN, that's the reason. LJN held all the home rights to all WWF games. So this couldn't get a port. The closest thing this got was a game for the Amiga called, believe it or not, called WWF WrestleMania. And I've got this game. I actually own the game. And they used a lot of the same art. It looks very similar. And they added the Bulldogs in there, and a couple different guys. but it's a hideous game. It's absolutely garbage. If you look at it, you're like, man, this looks great, but it is garbage, hot garbage. And the Amiga could have easily pulled this game off. So that's inexcusable. No, oh yeah.
The sprites are so big.
They pulled off the sprites. It was no problem. It's not that big. I mean, they scaled down a little bit, but they could have easily pulled this game off. So I guess I'm going to give this a little bit of time here before we move on to the review. There was a sequel to this game made, if you want, or a homage, or basically it was a theft of the name. In 2012, THQ released an iOS WWE Wrestle Fest that was for phones and tablets. And believe it or not, they had like 7 expansions, and they included a ton of wrestlers. The problem with this game is it's absolute garbage.
Yeah.
It is garbage. And I don't mean that because I'm a wrestling fan or because I don't like Apple. This is a garbage game. It was put together to make money.
It was a money thing.
Everyone universally hates this game. And so I'm not going to give it any actual time. What did you think about Wrestle Fest?
Great game. Great game. Great. The 2 modes as an incredible amount of replayability. Each character has their own movesets and their own style and are so unique. Playing through as Hulk Hogan is tremendously different as playing through as Earthquake.
They move differently, different speeds.
All of the tag partners you can have, because you can tag with any other person. There's not set teams. You get to choose. Opens up an incredible amount of replayability. Huge sprites. I wish that the digitized sound with the people talking was a little clearer. It was a little crisper. The sound overall, I mean, the punches and the thuds are okay. They're good, but they're not great, especially considering the rest of the quality of the game. But by no means should that make you not want to play this. Go play it right now.
The fact
it doesn't matter if you like wrestling. Obviously, if you like wrestling, it's a huge boon. If you know the characters, it's a huge boon. But it is just a good, solid fighting game. Yeah,
and the funny thing about it is it does kind of walk that line between fighting game, beat 'em up, and sports game. It's in a weird area. Really, Take Notes only did games that were like this. This was this one in WWF Superstars. Both of these games are sort of anomalous with the rest of the way the wrestling went. Because you had, and before that, you had like a Matt Mania or Mania Championship. So Matt Mania is a great game too. But they improved it in this. And then you've got, after this, you came up with like WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, which was an all-used digitized game, which is a totally ridiculous, different game.
Everything.
This game could be remade right now, and you could make and people would go. I mean, people love this game. It's super popular. So we do have another review here from our good buddy Graham. I think this might be my favorite wrestling game of them all, and maybe even better than WWF No Mercy and Saturday Night Slam Match. I think it's better than both.
I think it's better than both of them.
Plenty of colorful 1990s pixel-based graphics and great sounds make this game stand the test of time even today. The gameplay is very approachable, as 2 buttons are all that is needed for tag team or Royal Rumble matches, and I can actually achieve the set moves unlike in some other games. That's true. You don't have to do anything crazy like in Street Fighter.
Right.
Big Boss Man and Mr. Perfect are my favorite team, and I had a lot of success with them, but there's no Randy Savage, who was iconic. There you go. Mean Gene makes an appearance through the interviews, too. Why was this game never ported to the Mega Drive and SNES or some other cable system?
Now he knows.
A huge opportunity lost, because playing this couch co-op would have been fantastic, and it is. My favorite team, by the way, and this is when me and Hosh used to play, where I was always Earthquake, and he was always the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. That's a great team, and I like Ted too. But I've played all these guys hundreds and hundreds of times, and I like every person. And every guy has a whole different feel.
My favorite pairing is Mr. Perfect and Ultimate Warrior.
It's funny, but you and Graham both like Mr. Perfect. That's one guy I seldom play. Well, another thing that's sort of perfect. It's time to spin the wheel.
Ah, yes.
All right, now this week, tell the folks what we added.
We added, per user request, edutainment.
Edutainment, Brent, the term you coined stupidly.
This will be a computer or console-based game with the power of learning. As its sole selling point.
Power of learning. Okay.
That's right.
So let's get both of us out of the screen.
I kind of want a little edutainment.
I don't see you getting that. All right, here we go.
Oh, that's not edutainment.
All
but
right,
you know what it is?
I don't know what it is.
It's point and click.
Point and click. Well, there you go.
Point and click game. This is gonna. any game where your default controls are point and click.
So like you could even pick like something like a Diablo or something.
Absolutely.
So okay, so it doesn't have to be point and click graphic adventures. It could be anything.
No, it could be. Lemmings is point and click.
Okay. I can handle that.
Oh wait, you can't pick Lemmings.
Why? It's already been done.
Nope.
Why? We had a gentleman's agreement.
A show rule. No Lemmings. No more Lemmings.
I like Lemmings.
I love Lemmings, but come on.
So we are recording this, and we are less than a week. When you see this breakout, you will be only 3 or 4 days away from the event held.
Possibly to define 2019 for a generation.
Well, wow. You think it's that important?
Yes.
Next Saturday, what's the date on that? Next Saturday's, what is that, Brent? I can't remember.
It's going to be the 20th.
Okay, next Saturday, Amigathon 2019. 12 hours of straight up Amiga goodness.
Yes.
All in the name of charity, the Children's Miracle Network.
And we got special events going on. You're going to have your D-Paint Challenge. That you, the fans, are going to be voting on who's the best.
Man, I'm not looking.
You are going to have the sounds to remember.
The
Amiga Sound Challenge, where we are bringing our best Amiga-made sound creations to the party.
Have you done that yet?
I have.
I haven't done it yet. I'm nervous.
You're screwed.
Oh, well, I mean, I've got something waiting in the wings. I would like to make an original composition, so I can use any Amiga program to make it, so I've got a couple plans. Don't worry about that.
You're screwed.
No, I got it. It's in a bag, yo. So we're going to have a lot of fun. 12 big hours over in the Boat Studios.
Yes.
Over there. Boat just celebrated a birthday. Happy birthday, Boat.
Hey, happy birthday.
He's getting old. And so what better way to kick off his next year than going crazy 8 bonkers with some Amigathon action.
That's it.
If you are feeling froggy, please hook up with us. Even if you can't donate to the charity, it's no big deal.
No. Spread the word. If
Yeah.
you can't give monetary due to your circumstances,
No
that's
problem.
fine, man. You know what? Be there. Tell a friend. Spread the word. That is just as valuable to this, because maybe you can't give, but maybe someone you tell can give.
That's right. And heck, if you just show up, we could use some moral support. We're going to be there for a long time. And trying to get this one done for charity. So it should be a lot of fun. Also, I should mention that this will be the culmination of the Amigo Aaron's weight loss wager, which I will say, Boat's birthday party last night, they did a good job screwing me on the Amiga's Aaron's weight loss wager, because they had a bunch of pizza there.
Don't look at me, man. I tried to eat all the pizza before you got to it.
Well, you almost pulled it off, too. You did a good job. Brent, hilariously, is there anyone in the chat room you want to say hi to?
We're going to talk. Angus Arthur stopped by today. My lovely, lovely wife stopped by. We also had Amiga Bang. We had Socks McCoy, my favorite cat. We had a little bit of Barry Scott stopped by. And we also had Geo's Lake, Picard. You know what? No Pixels. We did have Steve stop by, though, so that was nice.
Very good, very good. Well, we appreciate it. We have been working through some horrible internet issues here at the arcade, neighborhood wide, but we're hoping to get these resolved at some point in the near future. So if you were watching live and you had some trouble, we do apologize. So I think that'll wrap it up, Brent.
Yeah.
And we will be back here next week for some point and click action. So until then, engage!
Like that, actually.
Idiot. You can't even do Hadouken right. All right, yeah.
Yeah, we were down for quite a bit.
You didn't like that one? I thought that was pretty good.
No, the show was great. It's just we were down live for about half of it.
I know.
Sorry, guys.
We're
going to record a quick segment for...
Hello, everyone. Welcome
There we
to
go.
an action-packed episode.
55 minutes.
Man, that was great. That was great.
Well, yeah, I'm great. You're right.
No, that intro was me being awesome.
Is that what that was?
That was, man.
Now, I'm going to tell you what we've got here. This is the game list here. I made sure to email it to myself because it's so wacky. So, this hour, we're doing an 18-hour. Hour 18. Those are the games we did. Weltrix, Fantasy World Dizzy, Barbarian, and Spitting Image. So you can just comment on the games since you weren't actually there.
Wait, we already did Welltricks.
No, we haven't.
Okay.
Because I just released hour 17. So, listen, we don't have these in the bag. We're gonna record.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
All right. Can you remember those?
Nope.
Well, you showed me, didn't you? Let me change the background real quick. Yeah, that.
For anyone still with us,
I didn't know.
even if there is us to still be with, we're gonna record the segment for
Hour 18.
hour 18 of last year's. Man, you know you're gonna have to pop these out. Bam, bam, bam.
Oh, I got two more. 18 and 19. That's it.
Oh, you got
Because
20
hour
listed
20,
there.
there's like, yeah. Did you see what was in hour 20? Let's look again. This right here,
Samurai Showdown.
classic. It never even starts. That's when the.
So you're just not gonna do that.
No,
Okay.
so that's gonna be when me and
We,
Bo,
are you gonna record?
with
You're gonna
Bo,
do
me and Bo are
19?
gonna, me and Bo are gonna do it later. And by the way, this game here, Dogs of War, this was a full hour of this game. So that's why. So this is it right here. This
Wow.
is it. Yeah, I prehistoric. I kind of like that. It was kind of fun. All right, you ready? I'm gonna get it going here. Here we go. You ready?
Nope. You're not being nosy, Angus. It's all good. Yeah. We'll release the full show with the mock-ups on Wednesday for any of those who want to watch what they missed.
Normally I don't leave the live show up, but I guess I could this time since it was so screwed up. You know, you could go watch it as soon as we finish. You can go back and watch this actual stream of us.
Really?
I usually remember you guys got on me.
Yeah, but it's not going to have the stuff that didn't get.
It's going to have everything that we've recorded.
Right, but it's still going to have the same problem that we did live.
You might be right.
You know what it might be nice.
What?
It's totally your call, but you could release the raw footage.
I didn't record the raw footage. You mean splice it together?
No, dude, no. Just take and upload the recording for people who watch, so they can watch the live broadcast.
Yeah, but we didn't record the beginning of the show, and we're not recording right now. This is all being
okay,
streamed.
I understand what you're saying now.
I mean, I could splice it in.
No.
I might do it.
All right.
It's not that hard. All right, you ready?
I have to get into Amiga mode.
Yeah, get on in there, dude. All right, you ready?
The hat is an ARG thing.
Oh,
Come on, Aaron. Brand recognition.
Why don't you let me wear the hat then?
Because you are garbage.
No. Okay, remember, we got to wait a while before we start. All right, here we go. Oh, stop. Hold on. Something went wrong.
Yeah, I clicked out a frame. Why didn't you say something? Why is there a frame?
We're getting ready to record. Stop talking. Hello, everyone. Welcome to hour 18
Grab your
of
pillows.
Amigathon 2018. Get it? There's a synchronicity there. It's 18 of 18. I am Amigo.
What?
I'm Amigo
No.
Aaron.
No.
Joined by a confused idiot named the Brent.
Hey.
He's going to help us out here as we intro our big hour 18. This was a crazy hour of video game action. You were gone.
Oh
at
no,
this point.
I was comfortably in bed, sleeping, enjoying the nice warmth of blankies.
I was going to ask you, what's it like to be at this thing and then you get to go home and go to bed?
Oh,
What's that like?
It was glorious. I got home. I was well into my slumber at this point.
Yeah.
In fact, I might just pop this video open, give it a watch, tuck myself under the covers, and just lay down and take a little nap.
That's nice. I do have that effect on people. So this hour, we started off the hour with Welltricks. Now, this is that weird, wacky 3D downward-looking...
It's garbage.
Well, I mean, it's not my bag.
No, it's garbage.
Then we moved seamlessly into Fantasy World Dizzy.
Can't go wrong with a
game,
Dizzy
a
game.
game that punishes ignorance. It's a hard game. You know, that little egg is tough to negotiate.
Can't go wrong with Dizzy.
Oh,
though.
you could go way wrong with Dizzy. I'll tell you that right now. We went wrong with him a bunch of times. We killed that little egg a bunch of times. I think Boat did the majority of the Dizzy play, but I can't recall. It's been so long ago. Now, thirdly, we played 4 games in this hour, and we spent the majority of the hour with this last game. But after we played Fantasy World Dizzy, we had to get a palate cleanser in there. Barbarian. Now, Barbarian is a classic game, released on every system. chopping heads.
Yep.
Awesome game.
Big guy with sword. How can you go wrong?
You can't go wrong. It was awesome. And we had a lot of fun with that one. And then finally, and this was the one that really brought the house down. And I don't mean that in a good way. I mean, we were all depressed after we played it. It brought the house down, which was Spitting Image, the game based on the hilarious puppets that were a big thing in England and had a cup of coffee here in the States. If you recall the old Land of Confusion video,
yes.
Those guys were used in there. And they had a show here, which I did find amusing, I'm not going to lie. This video game is a fighting game that
Makes sense.
It uses some of the some of the puppet versions of famous people. I believe Ronald Reagan's in there. Thatcher is another one that's in there. A bunch of other ones. Some other foreign leaders. I think there's a Shah in there. Maybe Fidel Castro or something. It was crap, and we played it over and over. I don't remember who picked this for how long they picked it, but we played it for a good while. Brent, and as you've looked back on this, because I know you've seen the footage of this,
right?
Your thoughts of Spitting Image, number one, and number two, what did you think of how stupid we were playing this for so long?
Well, Spitting Image is not my type of thing. I in fact, although I love like Clay Fighter, which I guess is something I guess you can kind of compare it to, but come on, guys, stop doing fighting games with the Amiga.
Well, that's not true. They made some good fighting games on the Amiga. This just wasn't one of them.
But yeah, this hour, everything fell apart.
Now this is the last entry that you're going to be a part of because we're closing in on the end of our footage. So I would like you to summarize your experience on the Amigathon 2018 and what do you see going forward this year since we are very close to the new 2019 Amigathon?
I think this will be a much happier, a much faster-paced affair.
Yeah.
As long as we don't have any technical difficulties like we had last year, I think you're going to see a lot more smiling faces. I think everyone's just in a better place at this point in the year, and I think we're good to go. I think we're really going to rack up a lot of dollars for charity. I think we're going to rack up a lot of smiles in chat. I think it's going to be a good time.
Beautiful, beautiful. And any parting thoughts from your experience last year?
Yeah, much like last year, if things go wrong or I get tired, I can just go home.
Yeah. Me too, come to think of it.
No, you're stuck there,
I'm out of here.
That is what... When you're a third wheel, you can just pop right off and the bicycle can keep on rolling.
That's well said. So, you've got a good lineup here of wacky stuff if you're into that sort of thing. Please sit back, relax. I suggest cracking open an adult beverage for the Spitting Image portion of this hour. And enjoy us as we stagger stupidly into hour 18 of the Amigathon. And we will be back soon to sum this whole thing up with hour 19.
That's it.
So until then, adios. All right. And that is how it's done, sir. You want to say goodbye to all the fine people, all 2 or 3 guys?
No, Angus, thanks for sticking in there with us. He was there beginning to end. Amiga Bang also popped back in. Amiga Bang only here for the wheel. You know, pop that wheel back up here. He missed the spin. We'll try to recreate it for him. I'm going to nail point and click.
Did you know
again.
I got hit for a copyright infringement this week for the wheel music?
Really?
It's the first time that's ever happened.
Well, what does that tell you?
Point
Point and click. Here's it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. I didn't get point and click. See?
There
Point
it is.
and click.
Wow, good one, Brent.
Point and click.
Point and hit. That's
Just
right.
for you, Amiga Bang.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man.
It's any Amiga Bang. It's any point and click controlled game. So you're looking at your Lemmings, although we can't pick Lemmings. Your Diablos or your point and click adventures.
That Titan game that Pat likes. What's that thing called? It's sort of like Diablo, but with Greek stuff. That.
Age of Mythology.
Yeah, that's it. No, that's not what I'm talking about. It's something else.
So
we'll come up with something. I think you made a category that's too broad here, in my opinion, because everything's point and click technically. I mean, if you have a computer and with Windows on, everything's point and click. You know, that's good. So it could be anything. You should have said point and click adventures, or something else. It's too broad, in my opinion. Are you going to pick a point and click adventure game?
So, point and click. Yeah, that's what we're doing next week.
I know. I think it's too broad a category. It's just too wide open. Like, it's too wide open. And we did mouse games already.
Mouse games is not point and click.
It's the exact same thing.
No,
you
it's
have a
not.
mouse, you point. Show me a mouse game where you don't click and point. That's what you're doing. That's what the mouse does.
If you control the game with the mouse, it's not point and click.
I'm just saying.
This is tons of games control with a mouse. Like you can even have driving games that control with a mouse.
You know-
you picked a driving game that controlled with a mouse.
My game next week is going to be, for point and click, it's going to be surfing the web, because that's how you do it. Or how about using Excel? That's point and click. How about that?
No, there's typing involved.
There's
No
pointing and
typing.
clicking. You didn't
No
say that. You
typing.
never said there was no typing.
No
It doesn't
typing.
say point and click, but no typing. You said it's wide open. This is on you. It's on you.
Actually, I didn't make this category.
Oh, well, it's too broad. Okay. We will see you. Sorry for the internet issues, but what are you going to do? I'll see if I can splice something together here in a minute. Adios, muchachos.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye-bye. Amigathon. Bam.
Sure. Exclamation.
That's right.